Well, the magical run finally comes to an end.
Yep.
Not fun. Um,
No, there was nothing enjoyable about what we witnessed at the arena the last few nights.
no, not at all. Lots of stuff that seemed like they could be easy fixes that just didn't end up panning out. But before we get into any hockey talk, we'll talk about Cappy, our usual co-host here, in the
Yep.
hospital that had a stroke last weekend. So he's on the come up again. He's getting better every day, and it looks like they're going to be sending him to St. Luke's rehab tomorrow.
Great.
So he's making progress, and he'll be back behind the camera very soon, I'm sure. Um, no, we won't be doing like weekly episodes now that the season's over. But whenever there's some big news or whatever, if we just feel like shooting the shit and throwing something out there, then we'll probably end up doing that, but yeah, no, he's doing a lot better, and like I said, better and better every day. It's kind of nice actually having him right across the street at that hospital right there. So, being able to just kind of walk across and see him whenever. So, um, thinking of you, Cappy. Best wishes to you, and get better soon.
Yeah, thinking of you, man. Love you. Hope you get better soon. It's a scary, scary situation. I know when you told me that it happened, I it was during game two, and everything was like going really well out after the first goal that Medicine Hat scored, and you just kind of like dropped the bomb on me because I was texting you and you were like, "Yeah, I'm not too excited as I should be because my dad had a stroke last night." And I was like record scratch, like
Freeze
kind of
frame,
just
yeah,
yeah, yeah. Um, but yeah, I'm glad he's doing better. It's a really scary situation. I mean, that's one of those things that can really make you face your mortality. So.
yeah, no kidding.
Um, I'm glad that however it went down, that it was, I assume, caught early, caught
It
quickly. He was
was,
able to get
yeah,
to the hospital before it got too bad. So
yeah. Yeah, I had him in the ICU for 5 days and trying to get his blood pressure under control and everything too. But now he's in a regular room and looks like he's going to be good to go to rehab once they get a room opened up. So that's any
good.
time now. So making good progress, and I've been keeping him updated on the Chiefs. And I think he watched last night's game. I'm not 100% sure on that. I haven't seen him today because I just want him to get some rest and everything too.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, so he it's probably a blessing in disguise that he didn't get to go to these last three games here at the arena.
Well, I mean, he didn't miss much. Um,
I mean, I guess
especially,
we haven't even, recorded an episode since the start of the series, so we could start from game one too.
well, it's as everybody will know at this point, our predictions were way off. This series did not go remotely close to how we imagined. I mean, it's one of those things where just when you think you have hockey figured out, it kind of throws a wrench in that.
Yeah.
Um, it's not that the Chiefs couldn't play with these guys. I think that I don't know. If we play this series 100 times, Medicine Hat probably wins at 80.
Yeah, for
But
sure.
there was some signs of life in there where it was obvious that it's they outclassed us in just about every way. I don't want to take anything away from Medicine Hat. We'll get to it, but it's hard to not feel like there was some extra forces that were working against the Chiefs, and they didn't do themselves any favors, especially in game three.
Yeah,
Uh, I don't know. I mean, they were just a better team than the Chiefs. I think
no doubt.
our offensive power through the regular season in rounds one through three gave us a bit of a false sense of what we thought we had. Um, I guess the Western Conference is weak defensively. We hadn't faced a defense that was capable of what Medicine Hats was apparently capable of, and that was a big difference maker because once they had it, once they were in our heads and it was, well, I say "are" like I was on the ice, but once they were in the Chiefs' heads,
Yeah.
it was very it was very obvious that things were unraveling, and and it's funny because the things that we thought were the biggest issues with the Chiefs, like the penalty kill and the defense, ended up being somehow the best parts of the team in this
Hmm.
championship series, which is why again I'm just like, just when you think you have hockey figured out, something happens that just nope, yep, this game is unpredictable and um
No
yeah,
doubt. Yeah. And I think even from game one, I mean, Medicine not getting Lindstrom and Basha back game one, first time that Lindstrom's played all season, hadn't played since playoffs last year, and Basha hadn't played since, late in December. I think that really gave them a big boost coming out of the gate, and it showed early. They got those first two goals pretty quickly in the first period, and I feel like the Chiefs actually kind of settled in after that and controlled most of the play for the remainder of the first period.
yep,
Um, Obviously, Harrison Menigan in net for Medistat is a veteran goalie that's been around for a while. Um, he played a hell of a series. Like every game this series, he made some key saves that kept the puck out of the net, and the Chiefs just couldn't find those extra greasy net front goals that they probably needed and probably could have easily had. And it's just one of those things where, like you said, that team that was so dominant in the regular season offensively and even in the first three rounds of the playoffs, it's like once you face a team like Medicine Hat, I mean, that's just once they can figure you out and you don't change, like you're fucked, for lack of a better
yeah,
term. I mean, and that's the thing that, quite frankly, I think we got outcoached all series.
yeah,
Um, and nothing against Lau or anything too. I just felt like that it was obvious as a fan that Medicine's top line and their top defensive lines had figured out that Cat and Crystal Van Olm line, and they just continued to throw them out there every shift, and it's just the same stuff was happening, and they just, for whatever reason, weren't willing to really mix it up. Minus, I think they did in like game three for a little bit, but at that point, it was already 4-0.
yeah. Too
So,
little, too late.
yeah, and quite frankly, I think we just flat out got out coached.
Yeah, it seemed like I don't know. It seemed like they were just too stubborn. They, as in the coaches, they were too stubborn to make adjustments where they needed to. Either that or the message was falling on deaf ears. We don't know what's being said on that bench. We can sure as hell watch the body language and we can, if you're close enough, maybe you could read lips a little bit.
Yeah,
But we, from our perspective in 205, there was a lot of face palms and a lot of hanging heads
hands in
and a lot
pockets.
of a lot of hands in pockets. And then you look over at Medicine Hat's bench and they're engaged. Like
Yeah.
their coaches they're busting out the whiteboards, they're drawing up plays. Hell, even the players, they get on the ice and almost before like every major face-off, they quickly huddle up, have a quick discussion. I've never seen that before.
Mm-mm.
I've
I
never
haven't
even seen
either.
that in the NHL. But they would quickly huddle up, they would coordinate, figure out what they're going to do, and then sure enough, they'd win the draw and it was like they had a set play every time. They knew exactly
Hmm.
where each other was going to be, what they needed to do. Meanwhile, for us, whenever we had some form of offensive pressure, what little we got, it was one too many passes or gets an open lane, opts not to shoot, opts to pass, gets blocked, goes the other way, or vice versa. Passes when he should shoot, shoot when he should pass.
Right. Yeah.
Or another major thing that I just could not wrap my head around, the whiffs. Oh my God, the whiffs. Every single player on the Chiefs
Hmm.
just whiff after whiff after whiff. 5 feet in front of Menigan, open lane, whiff.
Yep.
You know, it's a series of missed opportunities. Um, it's not that they didn't have their opportunities. We'll get into the refs in games 4 and 5. I have some thoughts, you have some thoughts.
Hmm.
despite those calls, it's not like we didn't have power plays. It's not like we
Hmm.
didn't have lanes on Menigan. They did. They just very rarely took advantage of any opportunity they were given.
Yep.
And Medicine Hat, for the most part, took advantage of every opportunity they were given. And
Yeah.
that's winning on the margins, like we've stressed all playoffs. And they outclassed us. It is what
No,
it is.
without a doubt. And there's some, those open lane shots that we get, it's either a whiff, it's a missed,
Yeah.
shot completely. I mean, or you're shooting it right into the crest on Madigan.
Yeah.
They just could not seem to find that sweet spot. And I'll give credit to Menigan. I think he was great in every game, and I have nothing but respect for him. But the Chiefs just couldn't figure it out. Just couldn't figure him out either. And that definitely
Yeah.
didn't help.
Yeah.
The only game where they did figure him out was game two, but a lot of this, a lot of the reason why the Chiefs were so dominant in that game, I think, is Medicine Hat just fell apart.
Yeah, they took a game off. They I think it was after the first period. You were at a bar, right? Game
Game
two.
two, I was here.
Okay. Oh, that's right, because of the
Hmm.
yeah.
Yeah.
So, were you paying close enough attention to the TSN intermission report where Craig Button just absolutely laid into Medicine Hat's defense?
I don't think
Okay.
so.
So there was after we scored that 4 goals in 5 minutes or whatever it
Yeah.
was. Um, Craig Button, who was not great at giving the Chiefs any credit, but he went into this breakdown of the 4 goals that the Chiefs scored, and in every single one of them, Medicine Hat's defense just either made like the worst play you've ever seen, or they were just being lazy.
Hmm.
And we could go into those goals a little bit more in depth with like
Yeah.
film or whatever, but it was bad. They were bad goals. All 4 of them were bad goals that just left Menigan completely out to dry. And it's almost kind of funny because you look at it and it's like, had they gotten so used to winning and being able to get away with everything that they just thought that they could walk their way to a championship and that it wouldn't be a problem?
Yeah.
It sure seems that way because after the Chiefs more or less humbled them and took advantage of some really poor defense and just kind of lazy play by Medicine Hat in game two, they completely turned it around, became a different team. It's like we refocused them.
Yep.
You it almost makes you wish that we won game two by a goal instead
Right.
of by four. Um, because whatever was said on that bus on the way to Spokane or in film review or just in general, they came out on a mission and completely embarrassed us at home.
Hmm.
Completely.
Yeah.
Um,
And that goes back to the adjustments too.
yeah.
Medicine Hat, and frankly, the Chiefs were really good at adjusting all year when they had, a game where they get outclassed or, whatever. But they're, all year really, really good at that. For some reason in this series, they, I think game one, for the most part, the Chiefs controlled play.
Hmm.
They just couldn't score.
Yep.
Game two, Chiefs dominated play, scored all those goals. Medicine Hat, pretty lackluster defensively. Obviously, them being the powerhouse team that they are with a great coaching staff that they have too, they're going to be making those adjustments and they're going to see all the little things that their team is doing wrong, and then they will fix that in film, on the bus, in practice. They had a couple days before game three back here. They had plenty of time to adjust and stuff too. I think with the Chiefs winning that game is as high of a margin as they did. I think they kind of got too big of a head on their shoulders and just went into game three thinking like, okay, we can hang with these guys. And then they just stopped playing that way completely.
Yeah, there was a couple comments I read. It was like, "Hey, are are the Chiefs still back in Medicine Hat?"
Uh-huh.
Because it sure seems like it after game three, especially. Um,
That was pitiful.
yeah,
That was
game
one of the
three,
worst games I've seen all year.
that was the worst game I've seen
Yeah.
all year. I don't think I've seen them play a worse game at a worse time.
Hmm.
Maybe there's some dog day of December games where they just whatever, those happen, but
Yeah.
in the playoffs, much less in the championship series, you just cannot have a game like that.
No.
And the lack of adjusting, we kept saying like because if you remember correctly, in that game three, they only went to the second period down 2-0.
Hmm.
And we were like, "Ooh, man, that was bad. Um, let's just hope they can adjust." And it's funny how all playoffs we talked about how, man, this team and their almost desire to play from behind is going to eventually catch up to them,
Uh-huh.
and it just wasn't. It never
Yeah.
caught up to them until it did, and it did at the worst possible time. And I mean, hey, in all 5 games, Medicine Hat scored first.
Yep.
And the only game that we were able to do that weird fucking play from behind black magic was in game two.
Yep.
They couldn't muster it in one, three, four, or five.
Yep.
And three got ugly quick. Four got ugly due to some questionable officiating. And five was
I think game
uh
five, honestly, overall was the most even game of the series.
it was. It was. It
And
was.
and that being said, it was still lopsided in Medicine Hat's favor because they're just and I hate saying it, but I mean, it's true, they're just that much better than we are. They just have
Yep.
all the little tools on every part of their team that are just a little bit better than Spokane.
Yeah.
And it's a bummer. After, I going into this season, I definitely didn't expect this team to make it to the championship. I
Bro.
expected them to make the playoffs, maybe make it a round or two in.
Yeah.
Definitely didn't expect the scoring output that Catton and Van Olm had, in the first half of the season. And then Crystal joining after at the trade deadline, just completely skyrocketing that like even more. Like the Chiefs just did all the right things and got themselves into this position and then just kind of laid an egg. It's a huge disappointment after a hell of a season, but I will say I still think that obviously they didn't get the job done that they wanted to get done, but I think overall you can still count this season as a success.
Hmm.
And I think that for the guys that we're going to have coming back next year, this deep playoff run that they had this year is just going to benefit them in the next couple of seasons as well.
Absolutely. And let's not forget, 2 years ago, this team won 15 games.
Yep.
15.
How quick of a turnaround, too. It's a really, really
Yeah.
impressive.
They won 15 games 2 years ago. Um, Snuck into the playoffs in the final week last year, got their
Hmm.
ass handed to them by Prince George, whatever.
Yep.
And then this year they skyrocketed to, I mean, without Everett having that really good last 2 weeks, we possibly win the US
100%.
and make it all the way to the championship series against an absolute juggernaut of a hockey team that was had been building to this for a while.
Oh, yeah.
Um, I mean, hell, half their roster is either drafted or going to be drafted.
It's insane.
Yeah, and
And you know what's crazy is they started the year with a number, I mean, five or six guys that were drafted. And
mhm,
then you add Gavin McKenna into the equation
yep,
too, and everything. And then they go to the trade deadline and they add, and they
mhm,
add, and they add, and they add. They added Tanner Mollendijk. They added Harrison Menigan. I mean, that's a team that knows that they had the potential to do something special and they went out and just went for it. And, not to say that the Chiefs didn't go for it by acquiring Crystal, because I think that move really paid off in all
yeah,
honesty.
it did.
However, I still am going to harp on it. I think we needed to add a defenseman. I think that as much as that didn't really affect too much in the championship series, because like you said, I think our defense was okay for the most part.
Yeah,
in the championship series.
They
I
did they
think
did the best they did the best they could. They were playing against
absolutely,
dudes that were skating circles around them.
absolutely. But and I think I don't even know if adding another defenseman would have really changed that much.
Yeah.
But I mean, we can sit here and speculate on how things would have gone if we had done that or whatever. But it's I mean, it's there's no point in doing that. Might as well just kind of give the boys their flowers for the season that they had and everything too. But yeah, obviously a big disappointment going into the championship series and just laying an egg like that.
Yeah. I can't say it any better than that. They laid an egg. They did. The top line couldn't adjust.
Hmm.
Um Crystal, who still ended up leading the entire league in playoff scoring, didn't score until it
10
was
minutes
already too
left.
little, too late. 10 minutes left, down 3-0
Hmm.
in game five. Sparked a little bit of a comeback and gave us a little bit of hope. But it took him until then. And he was, for the most part, relatively invisible for large amounts of the games. Made a couple, I think he had a couple of assists, but
Oh yeah.
whatever. Um, and hats off to Medicine Hat's defense and goaltending. We talked about in the series preview, we talked about goaltending.
Hmm.
We talked about Megan and we talked about Cowan. And we talked about how we hadn't felt, or at least I hadn't felt, that Cowan had truly won us one of the playoff games. Like we were winning with him, but it
Right.
wasn't that he stole any games.
Right.
Mennigan, meanwhile, was undefeated coming into this series. So, and Medicine Hat was basically just blasting through everybody. So it was really hard to know if it was him or if it was just them or a bit of both. Kind of the same thing with us.
Right.
Um, Also, you couple the fact I didn't know his dad died,
Yeah.
and without sounding um the words escaping me, but like I mean, we saw it tonight with Mark Scheifele
Yep.
in game six. The Jets lost, but he scored a goal. There's something about like the the dead family member bump that sounds awful,
Uh-huh.
but like once I heard after the series had started, or I think it was in game one of the TSN commentators mentioned how his dad died like 3 weeks prior.
Yeah.
I was like, oh shit,
We're
we're in
cooked.
trouble
Yeah.
because this guy is on a mission from God.
Hmm.
And yeah, and he played like it. But we talked about goaltending and we talked about how for the keys to the series in either direction was Mennigan was going to have to steal a game for them and Cowan was going to have to steal a game for us. In Cowan's defense, I thought he played the best he could have.
I agree.
The first goal he gave up in game five, which kind of opened the dam a little bit, I
Yeah.
thought was soft.
It was a
But
little bit.
also he had been stopping breakaway after perfect pass. Like he had been playing out of his mind in game five, and he played out of his mind in game four. Game three, nobody really played
I
well,
I think
but he
game two, the game that we won, it might not show on the scoreboard necessarily, but he made some key saves in that game. I mean, I
he
think
did.
he only had like 20, 21 saves maybe, but I mean, a lot of those were just grade A chances.
They were. And if you think about how Medicine Hat scored 2 goals in that game, they did the whole scoring in the first minute thing, which was a
Yep.
huge problem throughout the series. But their second goal was after Marty just took a pretty bad penalty,
Hmm.
slashing Wu in the back check when it was already 4-on-4 to make it a 4-on-3. It was like, okay, that's just an automatic goal,
Yeah.
and it was.
Hmm.
So, I mean, I think I texted you that after the game. I said, is there an argument to be made that despite how much we scored, this was kind of Cowan's game?
Yeah.
It seemed that way. But so okay, so Cowan steals game two. He got the one that we needed. Mennigan stole four.
Yeah. He did.
He was on. We couldn't solve him. Couldn't solve
Hmm.
him.
Yep.
Couldn't solve him.
And I think that
So
started in game one. with the Chiefs putting up 38 shots or whatever in game one and
Hmm.
only, being able to get that one by him on just that one little defensive breakdown that
Yep.
Medicine had.
Yep.
I think starting from there, that kind of put the thought into the Chiefs' head, like, shit, we might be in trouble here. And thankfully, they came out the next night and put up six. But at the same time, you got to realize that a goalie, especially a veteran goalie, is going to be really dialed in and focused on bouncing back from that game. And game
Yep.
three came around in Spokane, and he pitched a shutout, and it showed. I mean, the Chiefs were flat completely,
Yep.
but Medigan still made some key saves.
Yep.
And I mean, no doubt he deserved the MVP of the series,
Oh yeah.
without a doubt. He
And
was he was great.
even though neither of us, neither of our families could stomach watching the trophy presentation,
Yeah.
um, going back and seeing like the posts on Instagram or whatever, it was really cool. As much as we all learned to dislike Oasis Weisblatt throughout this series, what he did, um, taking away from himself as the captain and the honor of being the first to hoist the trophy, to call Mennigan over and let him hoist the
Yeah.
trophy. I mean, what
That
a
that and
yeah,
quite frankly, as just a human, that gave me chills watching
yeah,
that,
it did.
because that was really cool. And like you said, yeah, as much as we learned to hate the guy throughout the series, and him being kind of a little punk out there, that's a classy move right there. And you could see on Medigan's face and all, the entire team. I mean, Medigan lifts that cup first, the entire team just swarms him
Yeah,
like immediately. Like you could tell that they were all playing for his dad, and
yep,
it, quite frankly, it showed, and they deserved it for sure, no doubt.
yeah, yeah. There was so many things that kind of went against us, but didn't do ourselves any favors. But man, yeah, you can't discount the effect that a teammate losing their father will have.
Yeah.
That is a guaranteed, like everyone's gonna go to a different level.
Hmm.
And to include the goaltender himself, I mean, he went 12 and no, like 13 and 1 in the
Something like
playoffs
that.
because I
Yeah.
think he missed a couple games be when his dad died.
His dad, no, his dad died before the playoffs even
Oh, did
started.
he? Okay.
Yeah, he had gotten pulled in a couple of games in the earlier series, but he still ended up earning the win for it, I believe.
Oh, all right.
So I am
Mm-hmm.
I'm not 100% sure on that, but
Because he didn't have the loss for the game that they lost to Prince Albert.
oh, really?
He didn't. Yeah, I think the only loss he had was to
Oh,
us.
okay.
Yeah, I
So
think. But I
I
mean, that
could be
doesn't matter.
I again I could be completely wrong about that, but um in you talking about that stuff with like him losing his dad and everything too, and then Mark Scheifele today
Hmm.
and everything in the NHL, it's a really weird how, and I feel like I'm sure it happens in other sports too, but
It does.
I feel like in hockey, a lot of the time, with it being such a team-based game and everything too, whenever there's a tragedy involving a teammate's family, or a teammate or whatever, something just gives that team that extra boost and that extra power
Hmm.
to push through. Like the best example I could think of is in, I think it was 2017, when Craig Anderson's wife got diagnosed with cancer,
Hmm.
and the Senators made a miraculous second half push, made the playoffs, and then made it to the game seven of the conference finals against Pittsburgh.
Remember that. Yeah.
Craig Anderson just carried them the whole way.
Hmm.
I mean, it's really crazy when you think about it, how much of an effect that kind of stuff can have on your team's play.
It really does. It's not tangible, but
It's more than a game at that point
yeah,
too. I mean,
yeah.
it's
So I made that joke like they were on a mission from God. Whether you
mhm.
believe in God or whatever your religion is, like they were on a mission from God.
Yeah, without a
And
doubt.
we just happened to be the final roadblock. Um, but again, like this isn't. I still come away from this series believing that it's a series we could have won. It
I agree
it's just they
in hindsight.
in hindsight, it's woulda, coulda, shoulda, and you can sit here and beat your head against a wall and talk about all the little things that, oh, if this goes a little bit differently, maybe we do this, maybe we do that. But I really do genuinely feel like the Chiefs could have won this series. It would have taken a lot. It would have taken a lot of things going our way. Um, Maybe a couple extra lucky bounces that we never got, or
Yeah.
some penalties that weren't penalties not getting called.
Are we ready to get angry now?
Yeah, I think so.
I'm going to start with I think we touched nicely on the first three games of the series. Obviously, laid that huge egg in game three. I don't think the officiating was bad in the first couple of games. First two, three games, I think
Yeah.
perfectly fine. I think the game that we lost 6-0, the Chiefs shot themselves in the foot, and nothing would have changed that.
Hmm.
Um, that being said, going into game four, as soon as I saw Bobby Joe Love was one of the officials in this game, I knew that he was going to have some sort of an effect on it. And I used to actually kind of like Bobby Joe Love. I used to think that he was, not the worst necessarily, but this year specifically, I feel like it's been pretty bad when he's been around. Um,
Yeah.
and it starts with that 5 minute major call on Nathan Mays in the second period in game four.
A 5 minute interference
Interference.
plus a
Yeah.
game plus a game misconduct. Five in a game for an interference. And before I talk about that, when you circle back to Bobby Joe Love a little bit, I'd be curious to hear from some other fan bases, specifically in the U.S. division,
Hmm.
how he calls their games. I don't know if he has it out for the Chiefs or if this is just how he is with everybody. I would be really interested to see that or
Yeah.
hear it. But that 5 minute major plus a game on Mays for an interference on a hit where he was finishing his check against the boards in the neutral zone. You can't call that. You can't.
No.
And if you're gonna call it, you can't call it a five.
Yeah.
It should have never have been a five if it was a penalty at all, which I don't even think it was a penalty. The TSN broadcasters, who were very openly rooting for Medicine Hat the entire series,
Hmm.
were they kept on saying he hit him before he hit him, he never had the puck. He hit him, he never had the puck. If you watch the replay, he dumps the puck and then Mays hits him. That happens 20 fucking times a game
Yeah.
where a guy dumps the puck in to get a line change for the rest of his line and another player finishes his check on him.
Hmm.
That happens over and over and over and over again and it's never called. You are taught from a very young age, or at least once you start contact hockey, you
Hmm.
finish your check
Yep.
within reason. You don't charge people, but if a guy dumps the puck in and you're already one or two strides away from him, you finish your check.
Yep.
And that was the case. He dumped the puck in. Mays was two or three strides away, finished his check. Did he hit him hard as hell? Yeah, he did, but it's the fucking finals. Of
Hmm.
course he hit him hard as hell. Medicine Hat was hitting us hard as hell, just like we were hitting them hard as hell.
Yep.
And he calls it a major. Probably because the Medicine Hat player, whatever his name was, rolled around on the ice like he just got fucking shot. Which we
Yeah.
can get into that because they were
Yeah.
their
That's another
acting
thing.
skills. Oh my God.
My
But
opinion on this Nathan Mays call, how I remember it without going back and watching it again was the Medicine Hat defenseman had the puck in their own blue line and he passed it up to I think it was Misha Volotovsky who
was
was the
that
one
who he hit?
that got hit.
Okay.
He passed it up to him and he swiped at the puck. He was looking back at I think it was Mollendijk on the back end made the pass.
Hmm.
Swiped, went to pass it, swung for it, missed it completely.
Mm.
As the pass is going in, Mays is reading the play to go in and play the body on Volotovsky. And Volotovsky misses the puck completely as Mays is again 1 or 2 strides away from him. So obviously he's going to go and finish his check. Volotovsky turns around because he missed the puck, so he was going to go chase after it, gets hit shoulder to shoulder. There was
Yep.
no head contact at all. Was
Hmm.
it technically interference? I guess you could make that case. I guess the fact that that was called a 5 minute major is one of the worst calls I have seen all
Yep.
year.
Yep.
Probably the worst call that I've seen
Yep.
all year.
And not
Um,
just a 5 minute major, a game
uh,
misconduct.
yeah, yeah, exactly. I mean, and the fact that Mays received no message from the league at all
Yep.
about a suspension or a fine or anything like that proves the point that Bobby Joe Love made the wrong call there.
Yep. That is a admission of guilt from the league without them openly saying he was wrong.
Hmm.
If Mays had gotten suspended for game 5, as frustrated as we would have been about that, at least we could have thrown our shoulders up and just been like, okay, well, the league backed their ref, I guess, because they at
Yeah.
least took his side and said, okay, because I mean, not 99% of the time in the WHL, a 5 in a game is an automatic 1 game suspension at a minimum,
Hmm.
automatically.
Yep.
It's not like the NHL where they do hearings and they talk about, oh, well, maybe give us $10,000 and you can play. Like they don't do that in this league. It
Right.
is an automatic at a minimum 1 game suspension. Nothing. Crickets. League didn't say shit.
Yeah.
So obviously the league went back and reviewed it and said, that's nothing.
Yeah.
Move on.
And to add on to that, um, not even 2 minutes into this 5 minute power play for Metasnat. At that point in the game, too, I think the part of the frustration from my point of view is until that point, it was a pretty good game.
Yeah.
I mean, it was a pretty even game. I mean, it was 1-1 for most of the first half of the game.
Yeah,
And
and the Tigers had just recently taken the lead
uh-huh. And
before
then
everything unraveled.
yeah, it was a 2-1 game at that point, really even back and forth. The Chiefs were actually playing, pretty consistently. And then that call really just turned the tide because not even a minute and a half into that power play, Rasmus Ekstrom clears the puck down the ice and goes to chase down on it. Gives Medigan a little bit of a snow shower as he goes to cover the puck. I get it. You probably shouldn't be doing that necessarily,
Yeah.
but you already made that shitty call, that 5 minute major call, and I think that you after it was already done, I feel like he probably knew that that was the wrong call to make, and you immediately don't hesitate to call Ekstrom for an unsportsmanlike for that too, and put the Chiefs down 2 men for a full 2 minutes.
Yeah. And at that
Um,
moment, the game's over.
oh,
Yeah.
absolutely, and I thought the arena was about to turn into a riot because it was. Dude,
I was watching that one on TV.
I was so frustrated. I was
Well,
so
and
frustrated.
from the TV broadcast perspective, obviously we get all the replays and the
Yeah.
commentary and everything. Oh, bro, the TSN people were being the most insufferable that they could have been. Like
Oh yeah.
it was after Mays took the major, the way that the broadcast team was talking was like they wanted him to go to jail. Like they
Yeah.
literally wanted him to get arrested and go to jail.
Yeah.
And they were like they almost had when they saw when they the camera shows Mays going down the tunnel and the broadcasters had this like serves them fucking right tone.
Yeah.
Like basically just yeah, goon, get the fuck out of here.
Hmm.
Um and then when Ekstrom snowed Menigan, once again they were like the broadcast team was like he needs to go. Like they outright were like calling for him to get a penalty even before Bobby Joe Love threw his hand up.
Mhm.
And it was just, I mean, again, we can harp on TSN all we want. Everybody was bitching about him online, at least everybody on the Chiefs side of things,
Right.
because it was so apparent that TSN, at least them, being the broadcast partner for the CHL at this stage,
Hmm.
wanted the small town Canadian team in the
But
Memorial Cup, and they wanted to have Gavin McKenna
uh-huh.
in the Memorial Cup.
Absolutely.
They want to be the ones to showcase the 17-year-old slam dunk, first overall next year draft pick, phenom, and the Memorial Cup. And the funny thing is, he's hurt. He might be a non-factor in the Memorial Cup.
Hmm.
But sorry, I'm going off on a tangent. Going back to Ekstrom, they were acting like he just like killed someone's dog
Yeah.
over a snow shower.
Yeah.
And then they tossed him in the box for two for unsportsmanlike or whatever they called it. At this point, you could really hear the crowd through the broadcast. I think some people threw shit on the ice.
Oh yeah. People did.
Yeah,
I
because
saw
they kind of
somebody
they kind of glossed over it. They didn't really show it.
somebody got up in the front row down in like 118, took his hat off, threw it on the ice, and just put his coat on and walked away.
Oh man, that's bad.
Yeah. I mean, it wasn't good. And I don't want to be that guy, but I can't blame him. I mean, that it was pretty frustrating to be in that arena that night and after those
Yeah,
two calls. And especially when Pickford scored on that 5-on-3 power play and put
immediately,
put them up 3 to
immediately.
1. I mean, after that, the arena I thought the arena was going to riot.
Yeah,
Like
I thought
it
I
was
thought it was last night too.
oh yeah. Oh yeah, that's another thing. Um there was one other thing in that game that I wanted to touch on, but I can't. Oh, you were talking about Gavin McKenna and everything too, and how, TSN was obviously the CHL TSN. It seems like that they want him and the small town Medicine Hat Tigers in the Memorial Cup and everything too.
Yep.
The showcase aspect. I had just thought about this as you were talking about that too. I almost wonder if the CHL is at all worried about their star players and their future star players making the jump to NCAA instead of the CHL now. After that rule change, you see a lot of these guys like Caden Lindstrom's committed to Michigan State
Yep.
next year. And he's going to be his 19-year-old season next year, but he'll be at Michigan State. There's been rumors of Gavin McKenna hopping over to NCAA. I almost wonder if that plays some sort of a factor into all this.
I hadn't thought about that, but
I
yeah,
hadn't either until you were
yeah,
explaining it.
that makes sense because if you're the CHL and you have this Memorial Cup, right? That is like, correct me if I'm wrong, it's older than the Stanley Cup.
I
They've
believe
been they've
so.
been doing the Memorial Cup longer.
Yeah, I believe
You
so.
have you have this historic tournament that has all this prestige and pomp and circumstance and means so, so, so much to the small town Canadian
Oh yeah.
headspace.
Yeah.
And obviously there's junior teams in big Canadian towns too, but and a few in the US. But it doesn't mean as much as it does to these small Canadian towns. And you could say the same thing about World Juniors.
Yeah.
Why does Canada give such a shit about World Juniors when the rest of the world is relatively like
Yeah.
like we'll root for our country, but it's like okay, but like in Canada it's this whole thing.
Hmm.
And now so you're the CHL, you have this historic tournament that has meant so much for so long. And now you look at these rumors or even the actual like bona fide verbal or signed commitments of these kids going to the NCAA, you probably feel a bit insecure. You probably feel a bit like your tournament is being a bit man, I can't formulate a thought tonight. Like you probably think that your tournament has a bit less to it. Like it doesn't
Right.
mean as much anymore because these kids who grew up in Okotoks, Alberta
Right.
all of a sudden don't care to win the Memorial Cup. They just want to use juniors as a launching off point to go to college, to go
Right.
to the NHL or what or pro somewhere else. So maybe there is an aspect of that where
Yeah.
it's they feel that their tournament doesn't mean as much anymore, and so they want to protect its sanctity. And they knew that if these rumors of McKenna to Michigan are true, which probably in all likelihood they are, this is their only chance to get him in the tournament. I mean, the Tigers are, for what I understand, are going to be just as good, if not better, next year.
Oh yeah.
There's a very high chance that we could see them again next year if
Absolutely.
the Chiefs are what we think they're going to be next year.
Yeah.
But McKenna might be gone, and if this is their only opportunity to get their golden boy in the tournament, I'm not saying that they're going to make some decisions from up above that are going to try to make sure that happens,
Yeah.
but they
I
got their
will
wish.
I will say, at least from the TSN broadcasting standpoint, the bias was obvious.
Oh, dude.
Like it was night and day. And the thing that I think is funny about that is, yeah, the Chiefs, based in Washington State in the United States, fucking 95% of our players are Canadian kids.
Yeah.
We have had Ekstrom from Sweden, Sarkinov from Kazakhstan, and Brody Gillespie from Vancouver, Washington. So the all other 20 whatever players are all Canadian born kids from Western Canada. I mean, they grew up cheering for these teams that TSN is dick riding.
Yeah.
And I don't know. I don't know.
You know,
I understand that they're nationally broadcasting these games in Canada on national TV and not in the
mhm.
United States. But you got to know that there's fans of teams in the United States that are going to be watching this game. And
You know what it felt like? It
what?
felt like watching the TSN broadcast during a Canadian World Juniors game,
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
where
exactly.
it doesn't matter what country they're playing, they're not going to get any screen time. They're only going to talk about Canada.
Yeah,
But the only difference was, like you said, is they completely neglected the fact that like 95% of the Chiefs roster is Canadian,
yeah.
and they might as well have been All-American the way that they were treating them.
Hmm.
And I mean, like even game two, while we were fucking just kicking their ass, it was Tigers this, Tigers that. Oh, if the Tigers can do this, they'll be right back in this game, or oh, whatever. I think we as Chiefs fans probably spent a little bit too much energy getting mad about it.
Oh, 100%.
It was
The
hard
the
not to,
the fan
but
group was up in arms all series about it. And
yeah.
and I get it. And I know that not everybody in that group are like as diehard of fans as we are, but I think that even seeing some of the players' families commenting on the
Yeah.
TSN bias, they're based in Canada. They grew up in Canada. They've lived in Canada their entire life. They grew up watching games on TSN. Like I don't think it would have hurt to be a little bit more neutral personally. But I mean, if you look at the talent on both of these teams, I mean, yes, they have the number one overall draft pick next year, no doubt. He's
Hmm.
like locked in as that. We have Berkeley Catton, who's I mean, all signs are pointing to him to having a successful professional career in the NHL.
Yep.
And you have Andrew Crystal, who broke numerous records in the league this year, and is barely missed cracking the Capitals roster last year. And up and coming guys, Mathis Preston's going to go 2 or 3 overall in that draft, same draft as Gavin McKenna.
Yeah, he's
I
good.
didn't I
They could be one too.
I didn't hear them talking about Preston enough.
Nope.
And that's just that pissed me off, honestly, because
Yeah.
Mathis Preston had himself one of the best 16-year-old seasons I've seen in a Chief in a long time. Like better than Catton's 16-year-old season.
Yeah.
And
He could be better than Cat and Crystal.
100%,
Yeah.
absolutely. He's going to be the next guy.
Hmm.
And the Medicine Hat had more guys that were scouted, were drafted, get talked about more of a national stage, but the Chiefs aren't too far behind with their the players that they have. But that's a whole other thing. I mean, TSN, I get it, they're a Canadian national network and they're gonna dick ride the small town Canadian teams, and it is what it is. We don't get TSN in the States, so we don't I don't care that much
Yeah.
really. But
Yeah.
at the same time, I did see a lot of people pretty up in arms about it.
Yeah, it's frustrating, right?
Mhm.
It's hard to sit there and just listen to that for 3 periods of hockey.
Yeah.
Especially in game two, when all signs were pointing to the Chiefs have made this a series
Yep.
and they are beating the shit out of Medicine Hat, frankly. And it didn't matter. It was still all Tigers this, Tigers that. That's hard to watch. That's hard to listen to.
Mhm.
I had my fair share of comments about it online, and I was I don't know. At least at least 3 of the games were at home, so we didn't have to really put up with it for too long. But
Right,
well,
right,
I did for game four, but
right.
but anyway, I mean, bad penalty game four or bad penalties game four.
Mhm.
Refs more or less
Yeah, I want to
handed
look.
them that game.
I'd like to talk about this goal last night, their third goal last night.
Yeah.
Um, Again, like I said earlier, I think game five was the most even game of the series. I
Yep.
mean, it was pretty back and forth. I mean, I think it was scoreless after one.
It was.
And Medicine gets that kind of goal that Cowan, I'm sure, would want to have back halfway through the second period. But and then even after that, for quite a while, it was even. I mean, the Chiefs were playing really solid defensively against Medicine's top line, who in games 3 and 4, they didn't have Gavin McKenna in the lineup. And Caden Lindstrom got knocked out pretty early. And I think was that game 3 that he got banged up by that knee.
Yeah.
And he stayed on the bench the rest of the game, but he didn't play. And then he didn't suit up at all in game 4. And then he played a couple of shifts in game 5, but in the first period, but I didn't see him much on the ice, if at all, after that. Um, so Medicine Hat gets those guys back in the lineup for game 5. They get that one goal lead, and then they end up getting another one. I think their second goal was a power play goal. And then pretty shortly after that, the guy cuts around our defenseman and drives toward the net. Parr gave him a little light shove in the lower back area, and he loses his footing and slides into Cowan. Cowan knocks the net off because of the force of the player running into him. The net's off. The puck bounces back out, and then it gets shot into the net after the net was dislodged and Cowan was run into. Called a goal on the ice.
Yeah.
I was a little bit surprised to start. I was a little bit surprised to see that it was called a goal on the ice, with the referee standing right there, seeing Cowan run into and seeing the net already off its moorings before being shot in, calling it a goal.
I was shocked too. I could
Um,
not believe he pointed.
I mean, and and then they go to that review, and I knew the longer it went, the worse the outcome was going to be for the Chiefs.
And it went for a while.
It went for about 5 minutes at
Yeah.
least.
And just uncomfortable long amount of time.
Yeah, and called a good goal after review from the league too. You made a comment to me after that about the comment that you made to me in the Prince George Portland series.
Yeah. So I don't know how closely everybody paid attention to the other series early on in the playoffs. Game one between Prince George and Portland went to overtime. And it was on the heels of, I want to say Prince George was down 3 goals in the third
Hmm.
period and came back, had just an incredible comeback against Portland. Came back, tied it late, like really, really late, like in the last like 15 seconds to force it to overtime. Overtime starts, um, and I don't know, somewhere in the 5 to 10 minute range of that overtime, essentially the same thing happened.
Hmm.
Um, a a Prince George player barreled in to the Portland's net. The net came off as the puck bounced out to whatever the Prince George player's name was. He shoots the puck in. Net's off. It's clearly off. It's been off. He shoots. It's literally, if you can picture the net, a hockey net sitting straight, it was at like a 45-degree angle, like
Hmm.
facing the shooter
Hmm.
from the dot. He shoots it in. This is in Prince George. Everybody goes fucking crazy. They're all celebrating, and my wife and I are watching this game on TV like, why is everyone losing their fucking minds? This
Hmm.
is so plainly not a goal, right?
Right.
Unless apparently there's a rule somewhere that says something to the extent of if the net is coming off or has come off and the ref by their own discretion determines that regardless of the net coming off, the shooter was going to score no matter what, which is fucking crazy.
I
That doesn't
agree.
that is an insane rule, and I don't think that's a thing in pro. I I would have to look at the rule book or something or look it up, but apparently there's this rule that it can count if the refs want it to. It's
Right.
it's purely a discretion call. The refs have to look at the film, or the refs or the league or whoever reviews this has to look at the whole play and determine that without a doubt, no matter what, that puck was going to go in and it was going to be a goal. In the case of the Prince George game, like I said, the net was literally facing the shooter
Hmm.
at an angle. Had a wide open net. Goalie's like basically in the fucking corner. Like he slid all the way out because he got just bum rushed. So they go to review, and my wife and I are just sitting there like I remember we were just talking about like I don't know why they're reviewing this. This is crazy. Like there's no way this is a goal. And sure enough, after a uncomfortably long amount of time of a review, about 5 minutes,
Hmm.
refs turn around, point to center ice, arena goes crazy.
Yeah.
Portland's bench goes absolutely insane. Like Portland's entire coaching staff is like literally about to like murder the refs. It was scenes. I don't
Oh
know if you
yeah.
watched all this
Oh
go
yeah.
down. Yeah,
Oh yeah.
it was absolute scenes. So anyway, my point where I'm going with this is I told my wife and I told you after that happened, they have set a very dangerous precedent for the rest of these playoffs. That if it happens again or something similar, they're going to call it a goal. They're
Hmm.
going to. They have to. Because if they don't, then why was this one a goal?
Right.
Fast forward to last night. Same thing happens. This one was a little bit more bang bang.
Yeah.
The Portland Prince George game was crazy. Like
Hmm.
the net was completely off. Bodies are flying. Net's facing the shooter. He shoots it easily a second or two after the net. Like
Right.
unbelievably bad call. The one that happened last night was very bang bang. Like you literally have to like go in, slow it down, take a screenshot, and there is a
Right.
screenshot floating around that
I have seen that.
I think every Chiefs fan probably has seen at this point
Hmm.
of Cowan with a guy on top of him on the ice with the net coming off its moorings, kind of facing away from the shooter
Right.
as he shoots the puck and it goes in. So the difference between those two goals, between last night's and the Prince George game, was that in this instance, the Medicine Hat player, whoever it was, literally just steamrolled into Cowan.
Hmm.
completely just blew him up.
Yep.
I saw a lot of Medicine Hat fans after I settled down and I couldn't help myself. I had to see like what their justification was because obviously there was going to be a lot of replies to Chiefs fans being like, "Well, what the hell?" And the Medicine Hat fans were going to come in and be like, "Learn the rules, kid," blah blah blah.
Right.
I saw a few comments that basically said that before as they were basically dismissing the Chiefs fans and being like, "Learn the fucking rules, bro." Um, that it would have been goalie interference had he not scored. Apparently, there's another nuance to this rule. If he had missed the net, or by some miracle Cowan stops that puck, it would have been a goalie interference. Instead, because he scored, and then you also bring that into the original call of the ref being able to basically unilaterally determine that no matter what happened, they were going to score there. They basically combined two really, really nuanced rules into one call. I don't know if I'm making any sense right now.
No, yeah, yeah. No, I get it. Yeah, I'm following.
They took this one really nuanced rule that you never really see and another really nuanced rule that you never really see, put them together, and then determined that it was a good goal.
Yeah.
But I told you when we while we were sitting there and waiting for them to make that call, I pointed back to the Prince George Portland game, game one.
Yep.
If that counted, this is going to count,
Yep.
especially since the ref pointed.
Yep.
And then sure enough, good goal.
I would really like to hear, and obviously I know this is never going to happen, but I would love to hear an explanation from the league or the referee that made that call as to why it was called that way.
Yeah. And my favorite part about all of this, now a day later, is since that ended up being the game-winning goal, it's crickets from the league. Like
Still haven't seen it online anywhere.
there you it's almost like they scrubbed it. Like you
Hmm.
cannot find that footage.
Hmm.
You cannot find it unless you go back into Victory Plus and watch the highlight package. It's in there, but there's no mention of it anywhere. The before the before the Chiefs scored their two goals, both the Crystal goal and the Sarkinov goal, as the WHL, I'm just going to use Instagram as an example. As they're posting goal by goal by goal, they post McKenna's goal to make it 2-0 on the power play, and then they immediately posted Crystal's and then
Right.
Sarkinov's. And then after that, all of the next like 30 posts are all about Medicine Hat winning.
Right.
They completely gloss over the game winning goal. It's almost like it never happened. That was the championship winning goal
Yep.
after it was all said and done because we ended up
Hmm.
scoring two after that.
Yep.
We lost the championship on that call. I don't even want to, I don't care that we were down 3-1 and in the series, and even if we by some miracle win last night, we probably lose tomorrow or what. I don't want to talk about that. I don't care because that would be a Medicine Hat fan's response more than likely, or they would just say LOL,
Right.
cry more. I don't care. I don't want to talk about that. We lost the championship on a goal that the league does not want to that they don't want to recognize it.
Hmm.
The only goal they want to recognize is McKenna making it 2-0.
Yep.
And I feel that that is unacceptable.
I completely agree.
I
And it just it's been some shady stuff in the playoffs from the league with that with stuff like that for sure.
Yeah.
And it's not just with the Chiefs. I mean, I've seen it in every series that I've watched. I feel like there's been some call that it just seems like it was just a coin flip of is it a goal? Is it not a goal? Is it a major? Is it not a major? I mean, I feel like they literally just went and flipped a coin.
Yeah.
And it's again, that's like you said, it's a dangerous precedent that they set. And the fact that the championship was won on a goal like that is uh, I don't want to say despicable, but it's the fact that they haven't posted it anywhere is pathetic.
Yeah. You can't fight it.
And yeah, I mean, they something's just not doesn't add up there
Yeah.
for sure.
And
And
I kept on, I say this mostly as a joke because I don't really believe it, but it does feel like the fix was in.
oh yeah, it definitely
It's
did give that feel for sure.
like these motherfuckers, as in Medicine Hat, they didn't need any help beating
Nope,
this team.
not at
They
all.
probably beat us without these calls.
Hmm.
Yet
I feel like
it
the
was
games would
like,
be a lot closer.
yeah, and it was like the league or somebody just was like, nope, you got to make these calls. You have to. I was there a huddle after the Mays penalty? Did they
Uh,
huddle? Did they talk about it?
I think that they did, but I also don't think that there were any penalties called on the initial play. The whistle had blown because Volotovsky was hurt on the ice.
Okay.
And I didn't see either referee's hand up either. And that's the other thing that's really questionable. Um,
Uh,
but yeah, I mean, I hate being that guy that, you know, blames the ref
yeah,
for his team losing. And I'm not blaming the refs for the Chiefs losing this series because the Chiefs did it to themselves, quite
yep,
frankly. Um, but the referees definitely had a factor in the outcome of a couple of the games in the championship series.
yep.
And you can't argue that. I don't care what side you're on. I mean, you can't argue that.
Way too much of an impact.
Yeah.
Way too much.
And I know Medicine Hat's fan base is just gonna be cocky assholes and say like LOL eat shit. But I mean, if you really go back and look at it, it had a major effect in the series.
Yeah, I mean, after Sarkinov scored to make it 3-2, and there was still,
10
I don't know,
minutes.
10 minutes left,
Yeah.
and we're all looking at each other like, no way is this goal going to be what determines this.
Yeah.
And sure enough, we couldn't find the equalizer, and it's water under the bridge now. We watched the time tick down. They scored an empty netter on just an absolute bomb of a shot from like,
Laser.
yeah, like that thing was huh, like
Yeah.
the second he let it go, I just hung my head because it
Yep.
just you could just tell it was going in, and it
Hmm.
was just bam. And so we watched the time tick down, and we get to see a dog pile on our ice. I don't know about you, but I've never seen it in person.
Never have. It was actually pretty cool.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, it was, despite how much it hurt.
Hmm.
Um, see the dog pile, and then you immediately your gaze goes over to our guys on the other side of the ice, just disheveled,
Yeah.
and the 20s getting consoled as they're probably crying, and it's kind of funny. You see Cowan, who was the most that should have been getting consoled over this, and
Yeah.
he's the one like comforting guys.
Yeah.
And he's the one who got hosed the most on that third goal where
Hmm.
he's the one comforting guys that are crying. And yeah, man, it was hard to watch. That was
It was.
you watch the handshake line, and they're just like, yeah, it's that's it. um but if you want to win a championship, you have to be comfortable with the idea of losing it.
Yeah.
You can't win a championship without getting to it. And if you get to it, there's a chance you'll lose. So we'll see.
The the thing that you said to me after the Chiefs swept Portland says, I don't give a shit what happens in the finals. We're the best in the West, and nobody can take that away from us.
Yeah,
And you know we are. I mean, we the Western Conference champions. The Chiefs dominated the West this year, and I just couldn't figure out the East. And Medicine Hat was just a wagon. I mean, quite frankly, and um, while we're on the topic of talking about, the 20-year-olds and stuff too, I mean, those three guys had pretty special WHL careers. Uh,
Yeah.
I mean, Crampton was a Chief from when he was 17 all the way through to the end,
Mm.
and set a couple of records as a Chief. And um, Ekstrom only played two full seasons, but man, what an impact that guy had. Um, Not only offensively on the scoreboard and everything too, but I mean he's just an all-around solid 200-foot player that I think really did a lot for the Chiefs. And I mean his dad is a beauty, like one of the funniest guys I've ever talked to in the hockey community. Um, just love talking hockey with him, and he's a really nice down to earth dude too. And uh, I mean and Shea, I mean, Shea had himself just a monster of a WHL career.
Yeah.
I mean, coming into the league at 16 and playing the Memorial Cup in Edmonton, winning, or not the Memorial Cup, sorry, the Ed Chynoweth Cup in Edmonton with Brad Lauer as head coach, winning it that year. Playing another full year in Edmonton, then getting traded to Kamloops, playing on their Memorial Cup team in God, what year was that? 22.
Think so.
Um, and playing on their Memorial Cup team up there, and then gets traded to the Chiefs at the deadline last year and makes it a huge impact right away, and then just puts up numbers this year, offensively, like career numbers. And he committed to Penn State for next year, but he had said on the one of the post game shows that he did with Boiler that that was kind of a backup plan if he can't, you know, wiggle his way into a pro deal. And I think after the year that he had, he's going to earn himself an ECHL deal somewhere. Um, I wouldn't be surprised at all. And Crampton going to Bowling Green next year too. With the NCAA rule change, getting those guys to be able to commit to those schools. And Ras, I'm sure Ras is going to get some sort of a pro deal somewhere too. I mean, that's just a professional player in all aspects, a full 200-foot player with an NHL shot.
Yeah.
And I know that some teams are going to be looking at him for sure too. So I mean, congrats to those guys too. And I sent all three of them messages last night on Instagram, and I think we're going to probably end up getting all three of them on here at some point to just talk about their careers and stuff too. And um, so yeah, no, I mean, a great season, and hats off to those guys too.
Yeah. No, consummate Chiefs. Nothing but good things to say about him. Obviously, we like to give Crampton a little bit of shit. He made some plays that would make us want to rip our hairs out sometimes, but I mean, I still love the guy. I mean, everything he did for this franchise, um, and then Ekstrom. I mean, hell, how often do you see a import player that came late
Yeah,
get an A? That doesn't happen
absolutely.
very often. So that says a lot about him, not just as a player, but in the room
As a leader.
and as a leader. Yeah. And then Shea, yeah. I mean, what a guy. A very under the radar trade that the Chiefs made last year that I
Hmm.
thought I don't remember what I thought at the time, but I didn't think he was going to become what he became. I do remember having a discussion with my father-in-law before the season, being like, "Man, who the hell is going to play with Catton now that
Yeah,
Roulette, because Roulette got was just like the perfect line mate for Catton
right,
last year."
right.
And those questions were very quickly gone. Like it was like
Hmm.
Van Olm basically Roulette walked so Van Olm could run,
Yeah,
and they just it was seamless, didn't matter. It was almost like we didn't even. It's like we didn't even lose Roulette. It was just
yeah,
and honestly, Van Olm was better.
for sure.
So, and we had him for a whole year. Roulette was also a trade acquisition.
Right.
Um, but yeah, man. I mean, I'm really excited for all three of them. Great guys. I hope nothing but the best for him. I do wonder on Van Olm's side with Penn State versus You say the coast.
Uh, Coast or AHL. I only say the coast
If
because roulette's in the coast too, and that's kind of where that came from off the top of my head.
Yeah, and nothing against the coast. My question is if you have the option between the coast and college, I really wonder like what the I mean this is going to be player to player, but I really
Yeah.
wonder like where the decision goes there because yes, with the coast if you get a pro contract, they are affiliated with AHL/NHL teams, so you are technically in the farm. But the coast is like that's a bitch to get out of.
Oh
Like
yeah.
most guys that go to the coast, it's really hard to get out of there. I wonder like how do you decide between going to college and getting the education? Not that that really is probably what they're looking for too much, but getting to play like high level Big Ten college hockey and maybe secure an NIL deal. I don't know how much it'll be. Guys in the coast don't make a lot of money.
That's a good point.
So I wonder
That's a good point.
it really just depends, I guess.
And now that I think about that, I mean, even before the NCAA ruling change, you had guys. Chase Berthollet is a great example of that. He went to the ECHL and played for Fort Wayne at the beginning of this season, and then played a handful of games. I want to say maybe 20 or 30 games there this year. And then he made the decision to leave and go to Canadian University and play U Sports
Yeah.
up in Canada. And I believe that's what he still ended up doing all year. So that's a very good point. I didn't really think about that.
Yeah. And that's player to player. That's going to all depend on what everyone's goals are and what they're told in meetings with agents and team reps. Um, I th I don't know. I mean, it's again,
Well, and
that's super like up to him. But
and here's the other thing too, that you could go to college, maybe get even better than you were in your last couple of years of junior,
yeah.
and put up some decent college numbers, and maybe skip over the ECHL completely, make it jump to the AHL where you have a more likely chance of making it to the show.
Yeah. Yeah,
So,
and some of those collegiate programs are great developers of talent.
mhm.
I mean, Penn State, that's a Big Ten school. They
It's up
play,
and coming.
yeah, they play against Michigan. They play against Michigan State, Notre Dame, Minnesota. I mean, those are all programs that have storied hockey histories,
Oh yeah.
and and then you get that really cool college experience. I mean, I don't know, and maybe you can secure some NIL money depending on the team and what they got going on. That's a question for him to answer for himself. I
Yeah.
just was kind of curious, like
No,
to
that's a good point.
to wonder what the benefit would be to go pro in that instance, where you could maybe consider trying to bet on yourself a little bit and play collegiately.
And quite
And
frankly,
maybe,
I could see Shea taking that route,
yeah,
just based off of his personality and kind of how he seems like him to be a pretty driven guy. I could see him definitely taking that route for sure. And like I said, I mean, who knows, put up some numbers in the NCAA and make the jump to the AHL and skip over the ECHL completely. So that's
yeah.
that's a very good point.
Now, if AHL teams start hitting you up, that's do that,
Yeah,
do that. But
absolutely. Absolutely.
you can make even if you never play a single second of NHL hockey, you can make a great living and a great career for yourself in the AHL, and
Absolutely.
plenty of guys do.
Absolutely.
That's why everyone says that it's a different game than the NHL, and a lot of prospects have a hard time adapting to it because you end up playing against these guys who are in their 30s who have played American Hockey League hockey their entire career,
Yeah.
and it's very physical. It's a different type of game. Um, I've watched a couple AHL games and you can kind of see it. It's
Oh
it's
yeah.
very it's very different how they play down there. And then you get these kids that are like top rated prospects that NHL teams are like, yeah, we're just gonna stash you there for a little bit. And you see them like really struggling to like put up numbers because they're playing against these grown ass men who just
Right.
beat the shit out of them. But
Yep.
anyway, we're kind of rambling right now, but
No, that's a good point.
Uh,
That's a really good
yeah,
point to think about. Um, so one last thing that I want to get angry about, or not necessarily get angry about, but that I want to talk about is Medicine Hat's fan base. Um, I am all for, and I'm just gonna start. I mean, like the online comments are one thing, getting talk shit to by 15-year-old Albertan fucking high schoolers
yeah.
that think they're hot shit is one thing. And I'm all for traveling to see your team in on a road game,
Yeah.
And Current agrees, as you can see here, he's making his presence known. Um, I'm all for that. Dude, absolutely come and cheer on your team and our rink, whatever. A lot of the Medicine Hat fans that I saw at the arena, just some of the scummiest pieces of trash I've ever seen in my life.
Yeah,
And
they
it's
were they were feeling themselves.
and I get that you're confident about your team because Medicine Hat's a great team and they deserve to win the championship. But there's a couple of fans sitting in like the middle of 110 I saw last night. They had this big poster of Cowan with a beach ball behind him in the net.
Mhm.
I get, it might be an all, fun, but as soon as your team scores, you hold that up and you go around to people behind you and you're showing it to them and taunting them in their face.
Yeah.
Go fuck yourself, bro.
There was a couple of guys that I saw yesterday too that man, they if I would have been sitting by them, I wouldn't have been able to keep my mouth shut because they were standing up, they were getting in people's faces, they were dancing
Hmm.
around like while play was going.
Yeah, yeah,
Like they were just they were I don't know. It's I don't want to lose any more sleep over these people. They uh, I I I got in some discussions online, or not really discussions. I tried to be cordial with these people. I don't know anything about them.
Mhm.
Like I had no ill will towards Medicine Hat. I didn't even really know where Medicine Hat was until I like looked up where it was on Google Maps just to see how far away they were. And yeah, I mean the 15-year-olds online, who cares? Like I'm almost 30. I don't need to be concerning myself with them, but
Exactly.
but these people that came to Spokane, and I don't know. I saw some Medicine Hat fans saying that we had some asshole fans that came to their rink. It's all he said, she said. Like they got their title.
Yeah,
The thing that bothered me the most was just like they they really felt the need to like dance on our grave,
yeah,
and I don't. Why?
yeah.
Why?
That
What what
pissed me off too. What like
why?
win with class, be humble, don't be an
Yeah,
asshole. I mean, it's not
like
that hard.
what do you gain from that? I don't like, and I'm not saying these were kids. If it was the 15-year-olds, whatever. Like grown ass men, like literally like 50-year-old men,
Yeah.
like going out of their way to just gloat and talk shit. And the the guy on Facebook with the top fan badge
Oh, I
and the
know.
Medicine Hat Tiger logo,
I know.
that shit was killing me.
For the top
Like
fan
you
for the Chiefs.
Yeah, like you commented on Chiefs posts so much that Facebook gave you a top fan badge.
That's
Why?
embarrassing.
Why,
That's
dude?
embarrassing.
Go touch some grass, bro. Like maybe this is the American mindset or just the fact that like we have more things going on here
Yeah.
and that's all they have. I mean,
Could
hell,
be.
when after game two, and I want to back them up a little bit. I also want to say how impressed I am with their fan base in that how much they get behind this team.
Oh, for sure.
the amount, I mean, just the sheer amount of people that traveled the 8.5, 9 hour drive plus
Yeah.
crossing the border and spending all of that money, because they came here for all three games, at least
Oh
most
yeah.
of them did, spending all that money on tickets, food, hotels, gas, you name it, to literally like buy out an entire section at the
Yeah.
Spokane Arena and all in the hope that, and they were right, that they would sweep us on our ice and win the title.
Yeah.
And then you also, after game two, you see the footage of the bus leaving Medicine Hat and lining that main street, which I assume is
Mm-hmm.
probably their only main street, lining lining that main street, thousands of
Mm-hmm.
people,
Yeah.
all wearing orange and black and waving flags and so excited about their team.
Yeah, absolutely.
We could only dream about getting something like that.
Oh yeah.
But again, bigger city, more things going on, people have
Mm-hmm.
lives. Uh, I mean, that's all they got. That the Medicine Hat Tigers, that is their team. We have Gonzaga, we have Eastern, we have
The
uh,
Indians.
the Indians, we have WSU, UW,
Mm-hmm.
the Mariners, Seahawks, Kraken, etc.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's what they got. They got the Tigers.
Yeah.
So in that way, I'm happy for them. I'm happy for that town. They hadn't won a championship since '07.
Yeah.
So this is their first one in 18 years. It's been 17-year drought for us. They won the year before we did. So hey, maybe that's a good omen going forward to next season.
Good thinking.
Although our good omen of winning every 17 years, that's been broken.
Yes, it has.
But
I think that got broken as soon as Lethbridge got eliminated, though, because that's who he faced in 91 and '08.
yeah, Le Lethbridge was our punching bag.
Yeah.
Uh,
And the thing that pisses me off is I think we would have beaten Lethbridge too.
I think so. I
But
think the Tigers were probably the only team that we weren't going to beat coming out of the East. It's hard to
yeah.
really say that, but I
Well, it
don't
sure
think
as hell seems
anybody,
that way.
and you could say the same thing if Portland had beat us, or if Victoria had beat us, or if Everett had not choked like they normally do.
Yeah.
Anybody playing the Tigers, it was probably going to
Oh, they
be
were cooked.
over. It was probably going to be over in five or six.
Yeah, they were cooked.
So
Um, but yeah, I mean, and yeah, I couldn't muster to stick around for the ceremony last night. I was thinking the whole game. I was like, man, if they win, when am I going to get to see a championship ceremony in person again? And I said, I just as soon as the horn hit and I saw them, yard sale all their gear, and just I couldn't do it. I
yeah, I couldn't do it either.
stayed to salute the Chiefs, send them off, and like you said a few episodes ago, I'd like to be able to send this team off, win or lose at home, and I mean we got to do that, so
We did.
that's a positive that we can
Yeah.
then look off because this team was pretty special this year,
They're the best Chiefs team since 2008.
100%.
Uh, the COVID team, who knows what they would have done, but they were on that like generational heater before
Yeah.
COVID hit. Maybe that was a special team too, at least it felt like it, but who knows how that would have played out had COVID not shut down the world. But uh, in my life or in my time as a Chiefs fan, this is the second most special team
Yeah.
behind 2008.
And we were young then too. I mean,
Yeah, I was.
I remember bits and pieces, but I don't remember, obviously I didn't follow it as closely as I do now because, I'm pushing 32, so I was 11 when
I yeah, I was 12.
yeah, I was 11 when in '08 when that happened. I remember like, watching the Memorial Cup games on TV. I did go to all the playoff games. I just don't remember going to all the playoff games then. So
Yeah.
this was a little bit different for me too, but hey, stop.
Well,
Um,
and you just when you're a kid, like you don't understand the gravity as
right.
much. Same thing, like I'm a diehard White Sox fan, and when they
I'm
won the
sorry.
world, yeah, when they won the World Series in 2005, I was 9.
Yeah.
I wish I could say that I cared about it as much as if the White Sox managed to win a World Series in my adult life, I I would I would probably cry like a baby,
Hmm.
just like my dad did in 2005.
Right, right.
And, same could be said about my other teams. The Hawks, not really. I was definitely old enough to really appreciate those three
Oh,
cups.
what a dynasty run that
Thankfully,
was,
yeah,
dude.
thankfully I was old enough to appreciate that. But of
Yeah,
all the championships that my teams have won in my life, which is few and far between, really the only ones I got to appreciate were the Hawks.
for sure.
And so this would have been really special. And unfortunately they couldn't get it done. But we all think that they might be better next year, especially if by some chance Catton comes back. Crystal, I don't know what the Caps are gonna do because like they went from being like really bad to really good. So I don't know what their turnover is going to be. He could come back if I know you don't think he will. I don't think he will either, but if he did for his 20-year-old season, that would also make the trade feel a little bit better because then we
For
would get a
sure.
year and a half out of him instead of just the half season.
So,
Um,
so talking about Crystal here, it's a good point that I want to talk about. I think the only way that Crystal comes back, because he's going to be in his 20-year-old year next year, so he'll be eligible to play in the American Hockey League next year. So
I thought you had to be 21.
20 for the American Hockey League, 21 for the EC, I believe.
Oh, okay. Yeah, never
So,
mind. Never mind. He's gone.
so the only reason that I'm gonna give any sort of a possibility to him coming back next year is gonna be like an Austin Roos situation in Everett, where he played the first half of the year in the AHL, Nashville's AHL team, and then at the trade deadline, Nashville sent him back to Everett. I only see that happening if the Chiefs look like they're going to go on a run again come the second half of the season next year. And I mean, if you think about it, Hershey in the AHL, Washington's AHL team, are a fucking wagon.
And always
And they
have been.
have been, well,
Yeah.
specifically the last 3 years.
Yeah.
They won back-to-back championships, and I think they're still in it right now too.
Yeah.
Um, they and who knows what it's gonna all look like. I mean, the Caps were really good this year. Who knows what they're gonna look like next year? In the AHL, if they're gonna have spots open, I think Crystal will secure a spot in the AHL. But it's another one of those things where if his game doesn't immediately transfer over to the AHL level, and he's playing third, fourth line minutes in the A, maybe send him back to Spokane for the last half of the year and go on another playoff run with the Chiefs. I think we will get Catton back next year. I really do. I
Mhm.
think that we talked about it with Boiler the last time he was on. I think the Kraken are so careful with their prospects and they want them to develop properly before they make the jump to the NHL. Catton, obviously being 19, will not be able to play at the AHL level, so it's either NHL or back to the Chiefs. I don't see the benefit of him playing every 3 or 4 games, fourth line minutes for the Kraken next year, as opposed to having another full season in the WHL as the captain of the Chiefs, still being only 4.5 5 hours away from Seattle. The Kraken have every opportunity to come over and watch him whenever they can watch him when he's in Seattle or Everett or Portland.
Yep.
Um, I just think that the pros outweigh the cons of him coming back to the WHL next
Yeah.
year.
I agree with
And
you.
not and just
Yep.
gonna say this now, he's gonna get his 9 games next year. The
Mhm.
Chiefs won't see him until the early part of November, but no doubt he's gonna get those games. But I think I would be willing to bet on the fact that he'll be back next year.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree with you on that. And Bardsley we trust, and these
Yeah.
guys that like Harry and Marty and Preston and all those guys that really seem like they are going to be nice players as they get
Hmm.
older and get some more minutes. We'll have another spot open for an import.
Yep. Two more import spots because
Oh yeah,
they changed that ruling.
that's right.
So we're gonna be able to draft two guys next year. And I think Sarkey will come back. I mean, Sarkey's got another year or two of eligibility to play in the WHL, and man, his game throughout the last half of
Mhm.
the season just improved so much, and
Yeah.
I think it's just made him a better player too. So I would love to see him back next year, and then being able to get another additional couple picks from some European country or whatever is it's exciting.
Yeah. Yeah, I certainly hope so. Um,
But yeah, I agree. I think Martin is going to have a breakout year next year. I think Harrington's going to have a breakout year.
mhm.
And I think Preston is going to have a breakout year next year too. And I mean, there's arguments to be made for those guys that this year was their breakout year.
Yeah.
But I think that them having this experience this deep into the playoffs in their, 16, 17-year-old years is just going to push them to be even better next year too. And
Yeah.
I could see Preston putting up 40 next year.
Yeah. I could too, especially once Catton returns, assuming he does, you get into that question again, like I was saying earlier, like who plays with Catton.
I know.
So maybe it's Preston, maybe it's someone else. There's still trades to be made. Um, there's also always the turnover of okay, we have one too many 20-year-olds. What do we do? Uh, the does Cowan come back?
I think
Does
Callan's a wild card. I think
um
Weinstein's a wild card too.
yeah,
And the only reason I say that is because he can play in the AHL with Colorado next year. So that'll be kind of interesting to see how that all plays out. I think I think Cowan would benefit from playing his 20-year-old year in the WHL.
I think so.
Um,
Yeah.
and I think Carter Essler would benefit from that as well.
hmm Insulate
Um,
him a little bit more.
exactly.
Yeah.
I'm sure he'll get bigger and stronger over the summer this year too, and come into camp looking a little bit bulkier next year.
Uh-huh.
Um, a- Overall, I just think that the guys that whoever we do end up bringing back next year as our 20s are going to be the right guys. I mean, like you said, in Bardsley, we trust. Uh, and I think Sam Oremba is going to be a guy that's going to make. I don't think he'll make as much of an impact offensively as Van Olm did, but I can see him kind of stepping into that leader role that Van
hmm
Olm stepped into this year. I think it was a little bit of a slow start after the trade for Oremba, but I think once he finally got his game settled and got his life settled in Spokane, he really came into his own too.
Yep.
So I think that could be a guy to look out for next year. But then you also got to think about it. The Chiefs have to submit their pick for the expansion draft here
Oh yeah.
in the next
Wasn't
couple of days.
wasn't thinking about that. I chose to ignore that until just now.
Yeah, I think they have to have it in by tomorrow or something like or
Yeah.
no or Monday or Tuesday.
So we're losing a contributor, probably.
Yeah, so it's
Yeah.
it's going to be interesting to see who that ends up being. I did think it was interesting. I didn't know that you could do this, but a lot of teams chose to trade draft picks to Penticton instead.
Mm.
Apparently that's an option, so I wouldn't hate to see us do that either. But yeah, either way, I mean, we'll be losing some pieces for sure, but we'll also be gaining a lot of pieces with guys coming in, Ozzie McIntyre, Harry Mattern,
Yep.
um, and then the US born kids that we drafted that
Mhm.
are signed now and everything too. So I think the future's still bright and the
Yeah.
best is yet to come for the Chiefs.
Yeah, I don't think this is a one and done
Not at
situation.
all.
I really think that they're going to be as good, if not better, next season, especially once we get Catton back after his 9 games. And so expect maybe a little bit of a slow start to the year offensively.
Hmm.
We can get into all of this down the road. It's May 17th, so we've got about 3 months to
Training
4
camp.
months to kind of dwell on all this. But yeah, I mean, if to anybody listening to this right now, I know we've gone a long time, but don't hang your heads too much. Like, there's things to be excited about, and I don't know if we're going to be the team that hangs a Western Conference championship banner.
I
We've
hope
won,
not, to be honest.
we've won Western Conference championships before and never hung a banner for it. So, but
I don't want to be
so
that
I
team.
I don't either. I think it's tacky. Uh, but we did accomplish something very, or I said we again, but they did accomplish something very, very significant. And it's only experience that if they go on another run is going to carry better and help them out in the future.
Absolutely.
We could be a year from today, we could be talking about the inverse of what happened. Like we could be looking at a sort of situation where they learned how to win this year and then they do it next year or whatever. I mean, there's so many variables, it's hard to say that, but
The
yeah,
potential is there, though.
the potential is there, and it's all about sustained success. We've talked about that a lot. Um, you want to be like a Portland. You want to be like an Everett, minus the choking. You want to be good every year. You want to be in that window where you're always in the playoffs every season. You're always making noise. You're developing talent. You're sending guys to the pros. Which is something that we just frankly did not have for a while.
Yeah.
So hopefully that has turned and we can start talking about being a perennial contender, or at least a team that is good enough to make the playoffs and make a little bit of noise. You don't want to be what we were 2 years ago, only winning 15 games.
No, hell no.
There were some periods during that stretch where I really questioned why I kept giving this team money.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Me too.
I kept on renewing my ticket package and I kept on questioning why I did that. But they seem to have turned it around now. So it feels like that return on investment has happened. So I think
Let's hope it's just the start, too.
yeah. Yeah, let's hope that this is the start of something great. Um Outside of that, I don't really have anything else to say. We've gone
No.
for a long time. I think this is probably the longest episode ever.
Mm-hmm.
We had a lot to talk about,
Yep.
a lot of grievances and a lot of positives and things to talk about. So,
Yeah, I'm ready to wrap this up and probably get it up tomorrow at some point.
yeah, yeah, and we'll probably take a little bit of a hiatus here, I would imagine,
Yeah.
at least until your dad is healthy again, and then
Hmm.
maybe we'll talk about uh,
Yeah,
just doing like a
we'll
quick
do
little
some
pod to
special stuff at some
yeah,
point.
or whenever we can get the guys on that we talked about and like
Yeah.
get the specials up and maybe try to snag Boiler again, although he's gonna be pretty busy with the Indians. But
Yeah, I'm sure he would come on at some point. I honestly would like to hear his opinion on some of the stuff called in the championship series.
yeah, yeah, me too. Especially since we couldn't listen to his radio broadcasts, so it'd
Hmm.
be kind of curious to see what he thought in the moment and what
Yeah.
he's and then after the fact, like where his brain went. But
Yeah. No, for sure. We'll get all that stuff figured out, but yeah, for now, I mean, again, hell of a season. Congrats to all the 20s on graduating in the WHL, and best of luck to all you guys. Cappy, we're thinking about you. Get well soon,
yep,
and we'll all be back together here soon, boys. All right, buddy.
it'll be red white game before we know it, dude.
That's right. I've only
Always
got 3 months, baby.
it always happens quicker than you think it will.
Yeah, it feels like New Year was yesterday, and it's already the middle of May. So,
Oh yeah.
yep, it'll be October before we know it.
Yep.
All right, fella. Good shit.
Yep.
Go Chiefs, go.
Go Chiefs go.